Okay, this week we're going to look at three photographers. Two of them are actually kind of some of my favorites. Um, Dwayne Michaels is one, okay? So here's a great interview with him from Bomb Magazine. Uh, awesome video. I highly recommend watching this video. It's really great. And then there's a short video of Uda Barth. So let's look at these people. Okay, so we're looking at Uda Barth, Dwayne Michaels, and Gregory Crutzen this week. And is two better than one? Maybe. Okay, so here's a little bio information. Dwayne Michaels is one of the great photographic inventors of the last century, widely known for his work with series and multiple exposures and text. Uda Barth is a German American photographer whose work looks at themes such as perception, optical illusion, and non-place. Um, her work is conceptually, I think, pretty interesting. And then Gregory Crutzen, American photographer, he actually lives in Great Barrington, I believe. Actually, Dwayne Michaels, um, if I remember correctly, lives in Salem, New York. So not far from here. Udabar, I don't know where she lives. So let's look at her work, Udabarth. And, part of what she does is, she kind of photographs the unextraordinary, right? So like the normal, like the deadly normal. A lot of her photographs are just taken around her house, okay, which is kind of something interesting to think about, like all her photographs. And she uses this idea of multiple images together to create these kinds of conceptual ideas about perception, like how we view things, how light, and just form work together. So here we have this diptych of this couch, and we see it start, end, and then start again. All right, so this is kind of something you could play around with for this project if you wanted to kind of create these, you know, like in a lot of ways they're abstractions, but they deal with our perception and how we view things. So again, here's just this like, no, thank you, OneDrive. This little shadow, here it is kind of more abstract. It looks like maybe a little photoshopped, I'm not sure. And then here we see the shadow and then again. So she's drawing our eye through this triptych to create these kinds of, formal abstraction-esque, you know, ideas. Like they're very quiet images, but they deal with light and shadow and form, all the things we've been kind of thinking about. Here's another one. She was like really big when I was at, actually I went to SUNY Purchase as well. Um, and this idea, like all of a sudden everyone started shooting, blurry photographs. Um, but it's kind of cool. To me, they seemed very freeing when I saw them. It kind of like made me think a little differently. Also, it made me think differently of like what I'm pointing the camera at, what I'm looking at, Like here's just this carpet, there's really not a lot going on there, in terms of like what we normally think of. But here we see this very subtle and like, these ideas of looking at very kind of normal, mundane things and promoting them to these ideas or these levels of importance by photographing them and sharing those photographs and saying kind of to the viewer like, hey, look at this, let me make you think differently about this. So that was kind of cool, I thought, when I was a kid. Here we have another diptych, and these are they're very formal, like some of these, but it's kind of interesting, again, like two photographs, um, put side by side, how does that make one change the other? Okay, so you can think about that too. Like, what are the relationships here that that would make me want to maybe view these together? And this is kind of even like a simple thing, like here I am inside, here I am outside. You know, I start to have these relationships. Like, oh, okay, I see. You know, some of her work also feels like it's like a side glance. It's like a fleeting glimpse of something from your periphery. Here we have something very blurred. And again, like in the beginning, I think it says she plays with this idea of, absolving the foreground background idea of an image. So they're very experimentative and they're kind of fun. Um, Here you have, something kind of very direct where she's looking down and then up. What's that relationship like? Again, like foreground and then looking past. But the lens, the exposure, or the focus never changes. So she photographs something very close up and then maybe just tilts the camera or swings it, just a tiny bit to the left and takes the same picture without changing the focus. In the video, she actually talks about these images. I would encourage you to watch that. Okay, let's look at Dwayne Michaels. So here we have real narrative, and he's playing with serial imagery, and he's playing with perception, and he's 100 million times messing with you. And this is really, you should watch the video where he talks about making this image or making this series. This is just kind of one of his most famous series. But we start off just in a bathroom in a kind of ordinary scene. And then all of a sudden there's this like giant leg, so that changes our idea of scale. Then the camera pulls back. And the camera is just constantly pulling back and allowing us to see further and further into the image. Oh, and then we see, oh, okay, it's just a giant guy. But oh, hold on now. Now we're looking in a book. Oh, there's the thumb. Okay. Oh, we're over a man's shoulder. He's farther away. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. We kind of realize what? We just did this full circle thing. Dwayne Michaels, there's narrative involved. Okay, so he's like trying to tell stories through multiple images, but not in like the way a film does. There's more time to think in between. He was also this master of taking double exposures, okay, which is really fun to kind of play around with. Much easier digitally. I remember trying to do them with film in my old camera and shoot a whole roll, you get like maybe one. Chance meeting. There's just so many great sequences that he dealt with. And then, he also deals with like, this idea of fantasy, the human condition. There's this man, blah, blah, blah. So like there's some darkroom stuff going on, and then we're in space. And what did he photograph space? No, he probably just photographed a picture in a book. And again, like as a kid, when I looked at him, this series in particular like really made me think like, oh wow, like he just photographed a photograph in a book. Like how did he get the space? And that was kind of cool to me as well. I was like, oh, interesting. Here he builds a pyramid. And there's his pyramid. Fallen angel, he deals a lot with death. He says he has a healthy preoccupation with death. All right, last we have Gregory Crutzen, who does these, and he's very contemporary, he's like now, and he does these really elaborate staged settings that are almost like it's almost like a film shoot. If you see if you ever look and see any production photos, like him taking the photo, he has like a whole, it looks like a Hollywood set going on. And beautiful observations of light, and these things are highly stylized. He deals with these kind of periphery ideas of, you know, anxiety and not periphery, but like, you know, like they're kind of like, again, he's like dealing with the human condition. Also, like ideas of otherworldly events, the fantastic. You know, this almost looks like a Steven Spielberg still. This light coming down. A lot of stuff is at night. You know, it's in these suburban environments where, you know, he's pushing this idea of the normal, or, you know, the unnormal and the normal. Again, very like kind of Spielberg-esque. So you could try, again, creating something, you know, in a single shot. Could you put enough pieces together to tell a story? This is a weird one. I like him though. Again, with Dwayne Michaels, can you put together 2, 3, 6, 7 images that, you know, create some kind of weirdness? So that's what we're doing this week. I want you guys to really have fun with it. Push it. Maybe you try in those 144 images. Maybe you try a couple different scenarios. You know? Maybe you try some kind of like Dwayne Michaels-esque thing. Maybe you try some kind of formal, kind of conceptual ideas, but really push the camera work and the ideas into something that maybe takes us a step further than we're used to. Or, well, no, there's no or. That's what I want. Okay. Look at these if you have questions, if you, whatever you want, okay? I'm game.